Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of Horse Talk here live on Whatnot. We are Whatnot's retro podcast done live here on Whatnot and YouTube. Tonight, we got some buddies of ours joining us tonight, out from the great state of Alabama, I believe. Are
Roll
your
time.
late night go-tos every night. Welcome in, Register Retro.
Thank you, man. We appreciate you. Oh, my wife's in there clapping for us, so we always appreciate the invite. We enjoy them, and I know we tried to get together last month or so, but just could never get together. So it's good to get together tonight on a Friday night. That's for sure.
Man, it's great. It's actually the earliest I think I've ever seen you guys. Is at 10 o'clock Central here. Usually I'm seeing you guys at like 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. Now, so every so often, like maybe twice a month, we'll do like a very rare Register Retro afternoon stream. Like after I get here from school, we'll come home like, hey, you want to stream? You're like, sure, we'll stream for a little while. It's really like, it's not really like super busy for us, but I've always been a vampire. Like I can remember the story I tell when I was a kid, like when I was his age, my parents always say, hey, Wes, you got to go to bed. And basically I'd get in bed at 10 o'clock and just lay there and look at the ceiling for 3 hours before I ever finally went to sleep. And so like, if I get 3 hours of sleep at night, I'm good to go. And like he's about the same way. He just, I mean, if we're now, of course, like school nights, he's not going to stay up all night. But like winter break and different breaks in summertime, and if there's different holidays and stuff, I mean, sometimes we'll stream till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning sometimes, which is fine. It's cool with us.
Yeah. And you guys are y'all are an hour ahead of me as well. So sometimes I'm getting off at like 2 in the morning. I'm like, dang, they're still here. Let me raid them in. Always try to give you that super late night raid. So
Yeah, we appreciate. There's a lot of
well,
people
cool.
that we've met over the years that rate us and everything, and so it's just such a great community. It really is.
So speaking of Whatnot, I guess before we dive into, I got a whole list of topics for you guys tonight. I've been
All
kind
right.
of waiting almost a year to have this conversation. So we'll kind of go all over the place. Obviously, we have our chat with us here live on Whatnot tonight. You guys can always throw topics in. I will jot them down. Jot them down. I'm gonna jot them down, and then I'm gonna jot them down. And then we'll try to cover everything. But for everybody that doesn't know who you guys are, which I'm sure 90% of folks in this room know exactly who you are. I guess tell us a little bit about like the retro, obviously retro games behind you. Looks like some modern games. What are you
Yeah.
guys all about, and what's Register Retro about?
So we started. So I'm the dad, Wes, of course, and this is
Son Bravey.
and the wife Rusty is floating around the house somewhere. We started. So of course, I've always loved games growing up. Ever since I'm old, so I was in the '80s and stuff.
Truth.
And so I kind of passed my love of games on to him. And I never really heard of Whatnot before. And me and a buddy of mine back in 2023, we went to, I always wanted to go to a convention. Everyone went to a convention before, but back July 23, I was like, we should go to a game convention. He's like, all right. So we went to Greenville, South Carolina, Southeast Game Exchange. And I didn't realize like how big Southeast Game Exchange, I mean, even back then in now it's super massive, but 23, it was pretty big. So me and my buddy, we go to Greenville. We get there, and I can remember like walking because it looks like what it is a convention center, but it looks like it's like an old cotton gin or an old cotton mill. And so basically, like the floor where the cotton machines used to be is the showcase floor, is the show floor for the games. So you imagine how massive it is, right? And so I remember we're standing in line, me and my buddy, we're getting ready to go to this game convention, and we open the door, and I can remember just like seeing all these games and thinking like, man, so we're from a little town called Eufaula, Alabama, which is in southeast Alabama, and we're right here on the Georgia line. So I can walk out my back door and look across the lake, and Georgia's just right there. A lake just separates us. And we're on a lake, so we're hunting, fishing, things like that. Nothing wrong with that. That's just not my jam.
As Alan Jackson would say, we're right on the Chattahoochee.
Exactly. So it's not really his jam either, but like games are just my jam. And I remember just like going in that convention and saying like, man, like I belong in this place. Like this place is the greatest place I've ever been to. And I remember just like walking through and everything and I do have some stories. All the chat. So listen, here's the deal. Like I'm just a story guy. I can't help it. And so all the people in the chat talk about all the stories that I tell. Good, bad, indifferent. Either way, it's a story. So we were going to, I was watching these games are selling and stuff, and I was like, man, like I didn't realize like how much money was in retro video games. Like I just, I never thought about it. I had them growing up. I just never did. So I got home and I had found Whatnot about that time in 23. And I just kind of went on Whatnot and started watching the sellers sell and how they interacted with buyers and just research and stuff. And one night we're all in the kitchen over there. And I told Bravey and Rusty, I was like, I think I want to sell video games. And I'm sure they were like, Bravey was like, let's go. Yeah. And Rusty's like, okay. And so I just kept on like watching Whatnot and figuring out how they did stuff and this and that. Of course, I knew I wanted to do it with him. I wanted to do it as a family. And so we just I remember like kind of like going back and forth and talking about like what the name would be. And I can remember who come up with it. We come up with RegisterRetro. And I was like, that's pretty catchy. That's pretty cool. And from there, I got on Whatnot, got the seller account. Of course, back then in 23, it was a lot harder to get a seller account on Whatnot than it is now. But, that's neither here nor there. But so we started. I remember one thing I did is basically I tell this story people ask about, like Rusty and my wife's name's Rusty and how she does and how she cares about it. I said, I laid all this out to her and I was like, I want to take money out of our account. I want to start traveling when it's 1,000 degrees outside and 20 degrees outside and go on these flea markets and finding games. And I think most wives will be like, you know what, I don't really want to do that. But her two things were like, how can I help and what kind of snacks can I bring? So, that kind of support system there, I already knew we were good to go. But, we started going around and just buying a few games. We had maybe like a couple of stacks of games or something.
I mean, we probably had 2% of what we have now.
Yeah, it wasn't a lot. And awesome wife, absolutely. And so I remember like we started, the first stream was like October something in 23, right?
October 23rd.
Yeah. So I remember like the first stream we did, we couldn't even get anything to work. I was like, this is not working out too great. So I remember we stopped and then we did it. Yeah, we did like another stream and we started. And then we started with 3 followers. Remember that? And then we just kind of just started doing it. And like, listen, he's the host and he's like the star of the show. I'm just the grunt behind the computer. That's just me. And I get that. And I'm cool with that. But we started it and it was just a great time. It's games and, showing him like the business side of stuff. He's got his own bank account. He gets a paycheck. He gets a cut of the sales every week. I show him, I run everything through QuickBooks. And so I show him how that side works too. And so anyway, I'll try to let him talk, but it started off very small and for it to be here to me 2 years later is insane. But you want to?
Yeah, I mean, we started August of 23, actually sourcing inventory. Such a very it's a very small town, so you really don't have a lot of games around.
True.
So that's definitely the hardest aspect of it is actually finding your outlets for inventory. But I mean, like he said, to go from 2 stacks of games to we're getting close to 2,000 is really just a crazy feat to achieve.
Truth.
Man, 2023. I didn't even know Whatnot was a thing until mid 2025, I think.
Really?
Overall, and I got on. I'm like, I don't know if I love this or if I'm scared to death. This is crazy,
Yeah.
So
It's
I know
so
I bought a
addictive.
ton of 3D prints from you guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
2025, I must have bought what 30 3D prints, and then Mama Retro packed those things up like nobody's business. They were they were so tight I could barely even get them out of the box. So.
Yeah, if you look at our reviews, there's a lot of thing about the packing, the shipping department. But what's so funny though is that when we first started in 23, all we were going to do was video games. And then we started in 23, and then December 23, I started seeing people on Whatnot selling 3D prints, but they were, how do I say, they weren't of the best quality, I guess is the best. And I could tell they were like using cheaper 3D printers. And like I'm an IT company, and so like I'm a super nerd, and like I've always wanted to have a 3D printer. So I got to research and everything, and I was like, well, I could buy a 3D printer, and then like maybe I could use Whatnot and sell the prints to at least pay the printer off. And if the business goes kaput, well, I still got a 3D printer we could use to print cool stuff on. And so for about a month or so in December of 23, I like research printers and this and that. And I was like, well, I don't want to get a cheap one. So I saved up and I wound up buying, it was a Bamboo Labs X1 Carbon is what it was. It was not cheap. But I bought it and we started doing prints and stuff. And of course I nerded out because I wanted a 3D printer and started doing prints and put them in the shop. And like, it was going crazy. And we got it January. And so like by maybe March, I think we had already paid there you go. There's one there. We had already paid the printer off. And I mean, it's busy. Of course, back then we wasn't doing conventions. We were just doing, whatnot. I mean, back then we really could have used a second one, but I was too cheap and too stubborn to buy one. So we really didn't get the second one until December of 24. And then we got the third one last month, right? Yeah, December, right? Or November. Anyway, either last month or 2 months. So we're up to 3. We got one printer right now.
Wow.
The big one's right here next to us. But we kind of ran into a thing where we started doing conventions last year. And we sell a ton of 3D prints at conventions. So that kind of helped us, kind of get the numbers up, and we needed a 3D third 3D printer. So in the end of the day, if the business goes kaput, we'll still have 3 3D printers and a ton of games we can't sell, but it'll be fine. We'll figure it out somehow.
What's the business looking like today? Like 3D prints versus games. I mean, what's the percentage coming in right now? Is it like a 50-50 or is it still mostly games?
No, it's still mostly games.
I would probably say 60-40.
Really?
I'd say 60 games, 40 prints. There's some nights where we sell way more prints than we do games.
Yeah, that's true.
And also, when we go to conventions, we sell I want to say at Arkansas Pickers Convention, we sold over like 70, I think.
Yeah. The 3D prints sell very, very well at conventions. We had this one story. Here, I'm gonna grab this real quick. So we had this one story we'll tell, which really made me feel good. But we were in Athens, Georgia last month at a convention, and we take all of our 3D prints because I mean they're not hard to pack. We throw them in totes and we roll out. So it was a 2-day convention and it was Sunday, and the convention wasn't super busy because it was the Alabama Georgia SEC championship game, and it was kind of like in the middle of nowhere, so it was like away from Athens. So Sunday was busier, but Saturday wasn't all that busy. But anyway, so Sunday, this guy comes up to us and he's like, "Hey, I'm Joe White." Excuse me, I'm the voice of Chris Redfield. Like, yeah, we know who you are. He was there as a special guest, and he was like, I was looking at your 3D prints, and I love the Resident Evil ones. And I was like, well, that's freaking amazing. You would say that, And he's like, if I signed a couple, could I have one? I mean, you could have one anyway, but if you want to sign a couple, I appreciate it. And so he signed one over here, and then he signed one to us, if you can see it, but he signed one to us. And the coolest thing he told me, he said, man, he said, I travel the country doing all these conventions and stuff. And he says that like your 3D prints are that by far the best I've ever seen. And that really made me feel really good. Like I threw 2 of them away today because they had one little smudge on them and I'm not going to sell it. So I just throw it in them. I got like a big cardboard box I put all my random 3D trash in.
Because we've gotten so much filament to print stuff now, we've got a whole closet for it.
Yeah.
And there's this giant cardboard box in the corner where we'll throw away like little filament strands that like the printer takes off, or like if we have misfunctional prints, throw in the box.
Yeah. So it's all about like
only if it was like gold or silver and you just melt it back down, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they've got like this machine that supposedly one day they've been testing it that will come out that you can take all of that waste and it'll melt it and it will spool it up. Now it'll be some random color, but you might be able to print like random things around the house instead of throwing it away. But like right now, I mean, you just basically just chunk it because there's really nothing else to do with it. So, but yeah, so I mean, I would say that's probably right. I mean, it's funny, like the 3D prints probably sell the most at conventions, and then on whatnot, the games sell the most. But he's right. I mean, some nights it's a 3D print night, and some night, it's a video game all in show.
We just had Danico put in the chat, run the misfortune box.
Yeah. And one thing I will say, man, is that I never knew that Whatnot, like we have a lot of connections with people on Whatnot, like with phone numbers and texts and things like that. And I never knew, like, we probably have deeper connections with people that we met through Whatnot than we do in our hometown. And that's not like, that's not being funny. It's the truth. Like I've got some, like, I mean, there's a ton of them here. And I'm too old to read anything they're saying, but, I mean, we have some genuine friends, that we met through Whatnot. We've had like Luda, he's in there. He's come and seen us in Arkansas, hung out with us all day. Yoshua's in there. He's in North Carolina. He's come seen us, hung out with us all day. Um, yeah, I mean, we went out to eat with a lot of Whatnot sellers. I mean, it's a great community.
West.
Yeah, West. Yeah.
We went to Chili's with him.
We went to Chili's with him. I think we went to Cracker Barrel one time. Yeah, I mean, so we started this like not really thinking about like the different opportunities we get and the connections that because I didn't think anything about it, but it's crazy the connections that you make on this app. You know, everything's good and bad, but the good of Whatnot definitely outweighs the bad that there is.
In a way, Whatnot kind of feels like a convention on its own, right? Because you're flipping through from
Yeah,
booth to booth to booth, and man, I would agree with you 100%. The people I talk to all day are generally people I've met on Whatnot, way more
yes,
than my local friends and connections
yeah,
here. So it does feel like a convention, you know. If you think about it that way too, it's like a new user coming into Whatnot. You know, they flip it on, they see Register Retro, they hang out for a while, maybe they buy a 3D print or a couple games, and then they flip on over and they might run into Matt's Retro World or,
yeah.
you know, or Just Thrifting or Atomic or somebody. And they're like, oh wow, this is also different. This is pretty cool too. It's like it's such a variety too. That's the other thing. It's not just the same thing. Although I will say, sometimes during the day when I flip through, I feel like I'm seeing the same thing over and over and over and over,
I agree.
which is a lot of just. Look, man, it was easy to get in when I got in, but I also would be in favor of maybe a little bit more standards on who you let into
Yeah,
whatnot as well. So
yeah. I
seeing
mean,
some
when we
shady
did
stuff and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, when we did it back in 23, I remember this is funny. I had to, fill out this form, and then they wanted me to take a picture of my inventory. And like I didn't have any inventory because like, chicken for the egg thing, and I didn't want to like buy inventory, not be able to sell and whatnot. So I went over there and I took a picture of my like video game stand collection. And I was like, here's my inventory. And sent it in. And then after that,
Yeah.
you do the training and then you do the test and everything. I mean, so it was somewhat vetted. But now, like, I mean, we got a second channel on here called RegisterRetro, which is our like card channel. And I can remember like that used to be like one of my personal accounts that I had. And last year, I just happened to pop on my phone to that personal account. First thing popped up, would you like to sell? And I was like, okay. And I just wanted to see what it do. And I went through and answered like 4 questions. It was like, congratulations, get to selling. And I was like, man, that's kind of tough. But I turned that into the Register Rich channel, and now we do all of our cards because we wanted to do because we put all of we got into like wrestling cards and trading cards and stuff. And there was a time there that they were all kind of intermingled. And so we would run like
Mhm.
wrestling card shows, and the video game folks would come in. Where's your video? Well, we don't have them right now. They're not in the bin. And so we've separated that. And so now with the two different channels, we can run, of course, it's two different things that work because you sell stuff on one, which is good. It's good. It's a good problem to have. You sell stuff on the card side, you sell stuff on the video game side, but it's been better to separate stuff. But it was just so easy to get that Rips channel going.
I will say that with the fees that Whatnot takes,
Oh God, watch it. Hold on now.
I will say you you would think that they would have a little bit better overall, just like it's hard to like put into words, but like how they did it back in 23. Like you think they'd have better like regulations and like standards, yeah. And you think they'd have a lot better like stricter like employees, I try to say maybe that like would just
Yeah.
like keep standards straight.
The comments are wild.
Yeah,
um,
look from a big business standpoint. I mean, I've got some experience in that as well. if I had to guess, I think Whatnot's very much in growth mode right now. It's how do we
Yeah.
grow
Yeah.
revenue? How do we get the technology sorted through? Some things are going to get looser, some things are going to get tighter. I know me and you have talked before about people reporting people and things like that as well. I think we've both been victims of that.
Yep.
Mine wasn't very major. I know yours was a real pain. But yeah, I think they're in growth mode right now. Look, I'm glad they brought what they brought. I mean, every seller would love that there was no fees,
Yeah.
or if there was no crashing or anything like that. But I think that's all part of it. And in the grand scheme of things, I mean, their fees, I actually expect them probably not to stay where they're at. Honestly, I don't think they're going to go down either. So at some
Yeah.
point, when start
Yeah.
seeing that economy turn on Whatnot, it'll be interesting to see what the fees actually do.
Yeah, it's one of them things that I mean, you got to pay fees, and I get that. And I can remember when we did it in 23, when they did the thank you for the rain when they did the 0% on Black Friday. I think that I maybe so we started in 23. So I don't know if that 0% was like the first time that they did that, but when they did, it crashed the whole app.
Yeah.
And I can remember like we had set our show for like 9 o'clock that night, and then we come in here at 8:55 to get ready to go, and the whole app just completely crashed. So we couldn't do it. And now they extended the time and everything for a few hours, but I don't think they were ready. And that's back in 23. So I don't think they were ready for the inundation of people that were going to come in for it. But I will say this. I will say that, and I told Rusty this tonight, that a couple of months ago we thought we were probably dead in the water, because everything was $1 starts. And we're just not $1 start folks. Like we don't live next to some, we're not in Atlanta, Birmingham. We don't live close to a big, like the closest like flea market and video game stores like an hour away from us. We're a town of 13,000 people, so we don't have people knocking down our door to sell us our video games. So we can't get stuff, for 50 cents on there. But I will say, I said this tonight to them, the past month or so, I believe that there still truly is a place for bin show people like us. I really do. We have sold, as long as you have good inventory, people will come. But we've done very well with our bin shows. Now, of course, he loves to run auctions now.
Yeah.
He's an auction guy. Like he loves to like find some. There's a decent bit of people in stream. He's like, let's run some at $1, Daddy. And I was like, let's not do that. We've got cooked before, but whatever. I mean, it's one of them things that if we done good that night, I was like, run $1 because you're gonna scream at them for 30 seconds anyway. So that's fine. But yeah, I mean, I honestly like over the summer, maybe like right after the summer, I was like, man, we are cooked because like we can't do you're that. You're welcome.
He said we are cooked.
You're welcome. Because like we know everything was auctions, and there's people that have these massive warehouses of games, and there's 300 people in there, and and people would come in and shame us like, hey man, run that at $1. Well, I can't do that. Well, why? Because I don't want to lose money. Like that's not how business works, you know. But yeah, I mean, it's gotten better. I hope it stays like that. And there's a space for dollar starts, and there's a space for bin shows. Listen, I mean, if we could find games for 10 cents on a dollar, we'd run auctions, but we're just not in that position or that location to do it.
Look, I feel you on that, and we've had multiple horse talks about this exact subject as well, of bin versus auction, or or combinations and stuff. I mean, look, somebody had mentioned earlier, like they were nervous to go live, but they were thinking about selling and things like that. It's just like a swimming pool. You sometimes just got to jump in, but
Yeah.
being prepared is not a bad thing either. So look, I juggled it as well. I started with auctions. My first two shows, I remember it. My wife came back here and she was like, putting the sticky notes on things and whatever. I mean, we did $3,000 on the first auction, running everything at $1. But I don't know if I made $1 or lost 500. I couldn't tell you,
Yeah.
right? Because it was just all boom gone. And then we packed for about a day and a half straight. And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. That was after one show doing dollar starts with like, several hundred items. And then I turned around about 4 or 5 days later and did it again. And when I did it again, I was like, I know I didn't do well, from
Yeah.
a profit standpoint. And then I still have to pack all this shit. And I was
Yeah.
like, man, like that's like insult to injury, right?
Yes.
So look, I mean, I think there are dollar start things that are fantastic for the majority of folks. I'm very much like you guys. It's not where I want to be. I would
Yeah.
rather sell 3 items at a decent price for the buyer and a decent price for the seller that versus selling 500 at whatever, you know. That's kind of where
Yeah.
I'm at now too. I mean, I like the stuff and you know, I'm in a small town as well, you know, close to a bigger city, but not big in the grand scheme of things. But man, I am in a and Neto's in here. I saw him a minute ago. I am in a very competitive market. I mean, like
Yeah.
tooth and nail. If you have a Facebook marketplace buy that you're gonna get, I guarantee you 5 people will try to undercut you before you even get to that
Wow.
house. It's literally like that. And look, it's happened to me twice already. I'm like en route and they're like, hey, somebody just offered me more money. I'm like, you just closed the deal. I'm literally en route.
Yeah.
And I've, you know, one time I've had to turn around, one time I've had to offer more money and I got it. And it's interesting because me and you were talking about this a while back because you guys were considering doing that con down here, and my buddy does
Yeah.
that con, the
Yeah.
Louisiana Retro Con. And look, he is ruthless, not in like a personal way, but like he'll check that marketplace every 5 minutes. Like he
Yeah.
literally will be on that thing constant, and the second somebody posts, he's on it. You know, he'll stop whatever he's doing, go straight and get it like right in that moment. And man, I tried it for a while, and you know, I'm not gonna like say, "Hey, I'm coming tomorrow" or anything like that, but I can't always just like leave work and go
Yeah.
get it right that second.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
I just had to figure it out for my own. It's like, look, this isn't how I want to hustle necessarily. I will hustle all day if I'm off, but I can't be doing this like while I'm at work and stuff. So it is interesting. I think sourcing as a whole, there's a wide variety, right? There's some people that have like markets that are pretty good, you know, overall. Selling's actually the same way. So me and Matt go back and forth all the time. Matt is unbelievable at selling consoles locally.
Hmm.
You know, he puts up, it's a beautiful ad, by the way. I mean, he puts up the console, 2 controllers, and a game, and within 3 or 4 days, it's gone. And man, I put up an ad here. I actually did it around Christmas time. I put up 5 ads. It was a console bundle 5 times, right? It was a GameCube. I had a 64, a SNES. I had everything. I tell you what, man, I must have fielded 150 messages and still didn't sell the GameCube. And I had it listed for $85 with a game and a controller.
Wow.
85 bucks and 150 messages and nothing. I'm like, man, this market is just not the right market, but it is nice. It is nice when you have a market that's receptive to certain things. But it kind of makes me want to ask the question about you guys. Like, what is your market like? I mean, I know you said like sourcing's not always easy where you're at.
Yeah.
What's it like for selling? You know, is it even something you guys try to do in your hometown, or is it more so cons?
No, I mean, like, funny story. Like, I had to deal with question after question the past 2 days on the bay, because we all got new iPhones last weekend. So I'm selling my old iPhones. And dude, like, oh my God, I put them on the bay, and I have got. We finally sold one this afternoon, but it was constant questions of, hey, is this clear and that clear? Is that this and this that? And I was like, man, just y'all are killing me. I mean, I guess I just need to go in there in the description and like, this is all the questions I've got. Here's all the answers.
And like, there's photos on the list for a reason.
Yeah. Um, we don't, so the only, I mean, we don't really sell anything in town. I mean, we very, very seldom we sell a few things in town. Our main thing is, is Whatnot, and our 100% thing was Whatnot back in the day. And then we started doing conventions last year. Yeah. Well, we started doing conventions in 24, but we really started doing conventions last year. We went to Arkansas twice. We went North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, of course. Um, so we really like to get a thing. We got 3 next month, and but my dad had a lot of health problems the past year, and so like actually like this week was the first surgery he had a year ago, and he just like this. So today I was telling somebody today. So today this week is the first week I've been able to work all week since last September, because there's a struggle with him, and he had these surgery. I think he had like 11 surgeries last year, and he just had all this stuff going on. And of course, listen, like it's me, and we got to take care of him. But like conventions, so what we'd like to do is get in the mode where we go to conventions and we use Whatnot in between. Because like we went to Retro Rich convention in October last year, and it was insane. I mean, for like us, like a middle-aged man and a big-headed kid, and middle-aged wife. Like we went out there to Retro Rigs and like did very, very well. And not like we find crazy stuff. But and I'm with you, like, we own I own an IT company in town. I own an IT company in town. And so like I just can't stop and say, hey, wait, I gotta not put your computer in. I gotta go an hour and pick up these video games. I mean, like that's just not. There's some people that's all they do. And I listen, if that's their jam, that's the only job they have, then knock it down. But I just don't have time to sit there and scroll all day. Like, this doesn't pay the bills. All this is like for me to do it with him and my wife and to like grow our collections. Now he's got an amazing collection, and we've talked about this many times that whenever and every once in a while we'll go back there to his room and we'll kind of show his collection off. And I was like, you need to understand that like the collection you have, like most adults like to have this collection. And so like when you get home one day and you don't want to put stuff in the bin and things like that, just look at your bank account and your collection back there in your room and realize that like, like it's funny because like whenever his friends come over and like they don't know like what we do and they walk in and they see this massive store over here and all the collection living room, like this is the best house I've ever seen, you know. But it's a lot of work, as it's a lot of work. It just, I mean, and honestly, like personally, I've had to, especially when dad was sick, it was easier to go ahead.
So like I I do like I'll go for the complete Wii U set. So I do that. I collect Pokemon stuff and Animal Crossing, and then I've got like one part of my shelf that's just like random games that I buy that I want to play.
Yeah, and I'm a Zelda guy, so I've got tons of Zelda stuff. But um, it's one of them things that like when dad was sick, it was easier to do the retro business because it was right here and there was some money coming in, and I kind of lost sight of the IT business because like the retro business for the most part is like my office that has my computer and stuff is like right here. So like my IT business and my city council job and the retro business, like I run it all from this computer and I could just walk 10 steps over and jump on whatnot and make a few bucks. But my IT business like suffered for that. And so I've had to get back and say, okay, like, especially whenever you run a whatnot show and you run for an hour and a half, like we did Wednesday night. What night was that? When you were making?
Two.
So anyway, there was one night that we ran for an hour and a half and didn't sell one thing. And so you're like, well, I need to get back to the IT business that pays the bills and, and not worry about this retro bit. But of course, then you run a show the next night and it's super busy and you do really well. And, whatnot's just so up and down. I mean, it's just, there's highs and there's lows and, you may not sell one thing, one stream, and you may kill it the next stream. And then, you look on there and there's a million people on, you think, well, I mean, there's no point in going on right now because there's like 200,000 people on. We're not going to sell anything. But then as soon as you click it, I mean, people come in, they start, hey, I mean, like last night was insane. Like, so I love to aggravate him. Aggravating him is like my pastime. So he hates school, which, I mean, I was not a big school fan either, right? So
useless information.
We tell him, okay, don't start. Which is bad because his mother's on the school board. I was like, you can't talk about our school. His mother's on the school board. Anyway, so I told him, so me and Rusty was messing with it, said, if you can sell $2,000 worth of stuff tonight on whatnot, you don't have to wind up going to school tomorrow. And he's like, deal, here we go. Well, we start the stream and like everybody comes in last night and we're selling like DuckTale 2 manuals and we're selling what we sold Shatterhand. I mean, everything's just selling and we get up, pretty good. And I said, tell you what to do. I said, if you can get to $1,000, then you don't have to go to school tomorrow. Well, let's do it. Let's figure it out. But we didn't make it. He went to school. It was fine. But the deal is this. We expect straight A's out of him because we know we can do it. And like right now, there was not a lot, but there was a few days last year that like when we went to Retro Rich Convention, that was an 8.5 hour drive. We can't leave on Friday night and drive all night and then get up and, load in Saturday morning. So we took him out of school that Friday. And so like basically like there's days of the school year that he's gonna like not go to school and travel around the country to sell video games with mom and dad. But I said like that stops the day you bring home a B on the report card. because I know, some folks call us drill sergeants and stuff, but I know he's capable of all A's, and I expect all A's from him, and he knows he's capable of all A's. Isn't that right? Mm-hmm.
Baby.
Uh-huh.
I'm saying, chat.
That's pretty good motivation to do well in school.
Yeah.
If you need like a math equation done, or you need like a band performance, I got you. But if you need anything to do with English or grammar, you gotta find somebody else. That is not me.
Well, Bravey, you've been so you're collecting Wii U, so that's pretty interesting, right? So I actually happen to have the entire Wii U set myself.
Oh.
Why? I don't know, really. Honestly, I don't have a good answer for you. I just thought I kind of always liked everything that people don't like. I was like, oh, everybody hates this so much. I'm gonna get all of them. So I did that, and then I heard you started that. So like, what was your interest in that? Like, why'd you start on Wii U?
So basically, the Wii U was my first ever console, and I'm gonna sound like a baby saying that, but basically, like, there's pictures that we've got of basically like my father. He'd sit down the Wii U gamepad and just let me like play it, even though I didn't know what I was doing. So like, it was just my first ever console, so I just decided to go for the sit.
And the bad thing is, I had to kind of like
That's
sit with him because he had such a massive head as a baby, like wobbling around the whole time. So I had to kind of sit behind him, make sure he didn't fall on the floor.
So that's a much better reason to collect the console than mine. So look, I always liked the Wii. I had a Wii probably right around college time, I think. Tons of Wii Sports. I would be willing to bet 90% of everybody in this room played Wii Sports till
Oh, yeah.
they just
Oh
couldn't
yeah.
look at the TV anymore. Um, it was a cool console. I don't really know what else was on that console, to tell you the truth. We pretty much just played a lot of Wii Sports, from what I remember. But man, the Wii's making a comeback. I think I was telling this to Matt earlier, but I think it's just hitting its 20 years, and it'll be interesting if Wii does the same thing that GameCube did about 18 months ago, when it was hitting a very similar time frame. Now, look, I know there's way more Wii than there was GameCube,
Yeah.
but it is interesting, and I've already started seeing a spike in some Wii over the last week or two. So I'm kind of keeping an eye on that. But well, good luck with your Wii U collection, man. Like, how far along are you? Where are we at? I know I don't remember if I sent you some games or not. I feel like I sent you a couple games, but I know you had a strict policy that you had to find them in the wild. Or now, does that policy still stick, or like what's happening with Wii U today?
Okay, so so like I learned very quickly that once convention season is down, it's down, and like there's no more like doing that. There's no more finding Wii U. So like I kind of like I'm buying the majority in the wild, but there's some like random ones like I can't really find at cons because people don't bring their lower end Wii U that I'll get online just because it's harder to find at con. But I'm about 55 in. I believe there's 244 because I'm going for variants too.
It's tough.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah,
the
like
good thing
there's
is,
a Jeopardy made by Nordic Games, and a non Nordic Games Jeopardy. I remember a few of them. I've got a few of those. I don't know if I have every one, but I think I might. Yeah, I might. You know what I don't have though is all those big box things. I've got a
Yeah, those
few.
are.
Like the Skylanders. I think there's like a Lego one or whatever. I got a couple of them up in the loft, and then I've got some of the Yoshi ones and like the Princess
Yeah.
Peach ones, and but I wasn't really going for all of that. I just wanted to kind of like check all the boxes and then get out of that. But I tell you what, man, it was a good console to not spend a ton and complete a set. Although I think that's changing a little bit from what I'm seeing.
yeah, I the biggest thing that I bought was the Zelda CDI games. I never forget it. Like as the end of 23, we were in Athens. It's a convention called Game Central Station. It was in a mall back then, I think it was like an old Gap store or something. And we were pretty busy. We'd saved some money up, and like those were like my Zelda grails. And I remember going to um, there, and they had both of them and buying them, and it was like I can't believe that I just spent $450 on these two Zelda because that of course they didn't have Zelda's Adventure, But they had the other ones, but I was like, I could do that because we sold the games that had the extra money that we're putting into the collection. Now, when my side of the business, like most of like the money that I make on my side of the business goes back into the business. Now, 100% of the money he makes goes straight to him, but that's neither nor there, as they say. But whenever he gets on his kicks, he works hard. He does. Um, and I'm proud of him. I love doing it with him. I love doing it with my wife. My wife is not a big gamer, but she loves going to conventions and seeing people and talking and it's a good time. It's a family thing. And I if you'd have told me a little over 2 years ago, we first started this, that we'd have like over like 10,500 followers and we'd be traveling the Southeast United States selling video games. I'm like, y'all are crazy. But we'd like to try to go out farther west this year and maybe try to go like say Oklahoma, Texas. So conventions there is what we'd like to try to do. The Oklahoma convention in May.
May.
Yeah, we're going to try to go to the Oklahoma convention, but he's got a band field trip in May. So
Six Flags.
Six Flags. So we teased him and we said that me and your mama's going to go sell video games in Oklahoma, and then we'll just get somebody to drop you off here at the house, and we'll be back later on after you get back from your Six Flags field trip. But yeah, it's one of them things that we had this one dude come in the other night, and you get shamed some, like, hey man, why is your son up at 2 o'clock in the morning, selling video games with you? And
he said brain development, bro.
yeah, it was just a troll. You have trolls. We got trolls that come in like everybody else does. And I remember there was this one incident. I want to say it was like the beginning of 24, January, so about 2 years ago. And this dude come in and just said something. I don't. Bravey didn't. Said something completely horrible to Bravey. The mods took pictures. They kicked him out. Of course, I was just extremely pissed off that this dude would come in here and say something like that. But the problem is that there's my wife named Nancy, and she's crazy. But now she's good crazy. She's good. She's mean. She's mean, but she's crazy, and she's good crazy. And so anyway, one of the mods at the time took a picture of the username of the person, and within about 2 hours, she had that guy's mama and his coworkers, and then found his Instagram. It was like, hey, I see you come in. Of course, he was like, well, my account was hacked and this and this and this and that. But these people come in and say this crazy stuff and think they can't be found, and that's not the truth. Plus, especially if you've got a crazy wife, like she hunts you down.
And what a lot of people don't think about before they say all that crazy stuff is that your first and last name are on your profile.
Yeah, well, sometimes they are. But what really bothered me, and not to pile on whatnot, is that like the stuff that he said was horrible, and people reported him. But all whatnot said was, well, just don't do it again. And we know that's the truth because whenever Rusty contacted the guy sent her email screenshots of what whatnot sent him after he got reported. It was like, we need to keep this community safe. Now you can still continue to buy, but just don't do that again. And we got banned for about 4 hours one afternoon because some weirdo come in and started, it was just, so hopefully it's different now. But that just really bothered me that like you can come in and say crazy things to a child and it's okay. But if somebody reports you and there's no information to back it up, the system's going to ban you, and you trying to get somebody on support. I told them, and of course, let me show that. I said if I could have picked up the phone and called somebody at whatnot, it took me 3 minutes to get this cleared up. But it took me 4 hours going through this stupid email system that you have. But it's neither here nor there.
And like, what's crazy to me is that you can have people come in and say all this crazy stuff. That's fine. Just don't do it again. But once there's a kid on stream, shut the world down. The world's over.
And listen, and I'll say this: whatnot is no place for kids unsupervised. It's not. But he's with me all the time. He's not. Anytime that you see RegisterRetro or Register Rips come in your stream, it's always me. It's never him. Will never be him unless he's with me beside me. But it's never him by itself. and listen, we're not, and I've seen all the PG comments before we started, and that's cool. But like, my wife and I are no saints. I mean, there's some things we don't say in front of him, but there's some things we do. For instance, um, back in December, I tell the story, and there was another convention we had to miss because of my father's health issues. Nothing against him. Listen to this. So, nothing against him, but we were all frustrated at the world because that was like the fourth convention we'd missed. So we're sitting there, we're sitting there in the living room, and we're saying, "Hey, like, we're gonna have to miss it." And so he's sitting there, just getting mad, and like, I don't know what made him say it. Or guess he was thought. He's like, "Well, you know what? It just pisses me off. We can't go." And I was like, "Brady, you can't say that." Well, it just pisses me off, Daddy. And I was like, okay, well, that's parents of the year there. But I mean, he used it correctly, so we can't really. But just don't say that. Just keeping it real. But now I will say we have, and a lot of them are here. We got a lot of mods that are. There's a lot of people on this app that are very protective of him, very protective of him. And if one word is said sideways, like they are gone. But I mean, you've got you got trolls that come in, and then the issue with getting banned back March of last year was this guy kept coming in, and he kept like Bravy's never said anything before about anybody until that person. He said like that guy makes me uncomfortable. It was like just a weird dynamic, and we're like, well, then we don't need to be here. And then he bought something out of our marketplace, and he put like this bad review up, and I was like, well, oh, obviously he's just a troll. That's what you are. And so I just blocked him. Like we don't block folks that much. I just blocked him. Well, he freaked out and started like trying to like call me on Instagram and like Facebook Messenger. And I was like, dude, like, and then anyway, so it just kind of keeps going. And anyway, he was the one that supposedly, like, I guess, put like unsupervised child or something on stream. And of course, whenever you do that, if you do that more than 2 or 3 times, they're going to automatically now they're not going to check, but they're going to automatically ban you. And I was sitting there at the computer one day, and I was going to check. I think we put some new inventory in the bin the night before. I was going to check and make sure it was there, and I couldn't click on the seller account, and I was like, "Oh hell, I know what that means." And about that time, I got an email saying, we're sorry, but you're awful. And so you're banned. And so, anyway, basically what it was is Whatnot thought that it was his account and that he was running the account. And I was like, even back then, we had like 7,000 followers. And I was like, you can obviously see that this is not this child's account. And I mean, I just went back and forth. And finally, I said, for the love of God, please just get me to somebody that can help. And if I can talk to someone that understands me and I can understand them, we can get this sorted out. And finally, they sent me to somebody, I think, here in the States that understood the issue. And I said, he doesn't own this account. I'm the one that owned this account. He's always supervised. It was just a troll that just wants to aggravate people. And then they unbanned us like 3 or 4 hours later. But we put up a post on Instagram about how we got banned, and man, we had no idea the support that we had until we put that post up. Like there's this big card breaker named Run Good Life that's in Washington, and he's got a huge following. And he reposted, it was like, I think it's horrible Whatnot is doing this to good people. And that took off. The other post took off. I'm not saying that helped us, but it definitely got the word out.
Lou said my wife looking to mess that dude up.
Yeah, it's and so anyway, he kept coming back in. And so one night he come in, I was like, dude, like we don't, we're not being mean, we don't want you here. We don't want you here. Like you got us banned. He admitted he did. Well, he come in one night, and Rusty never comes on stream very much. Very few shows he does. He comes in, I said he's here. And she said, go back there to your room, Brady. And I said, oh, this is going to be interesting. And I can't remember what all my wife said to that man on stream, but I never seen him back again. And that's fine. We don't want it back, But I think that was the first time she ever come on stream, and she was like, "We're not doing this anymore." And like, of course, she had already had his name and where he lived and all of that because once again, she's good crazy. I mean, she's crazy, but she's good crazy at least. Um, but yeah, I mean, like and I mean, there's people that just like you're saying, there's people that's going to come in and say stupid stuff. Like there was this one guy one time or person a couple years ago. We had a CIB Donkey Kong Country Super Nintendo. And we just really got started, I think. And Brady was super excited. So he's like, "Hey, let me see this and let me see that and this and this and that." And Brady took 10 or 15 minutes and showed everything. And then of course he's like, "I don't want that, you stupid country, da 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 sound and da 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 people." But it is what it is. We just kick them out and we just drive on. You can't get flustered. If you get flustered, the show's done. And I learned that when we first started, people would come in and say stupid stuff, and you get flustered, and then like it just goes downhill after that. You just gotta keep on rolling.
But well, so the person that got us banned, what would
Be careful.
what I thought was kind of funny though, like Ludacris said, he said he just kept on coming in with different accounts after we blocked one. Basically, it'd be all he'd do is he would make a new account and it'd be his name, and then he had like 20 numbers after, and he just changed the last number. So you obviously knew it was him because he would never try to like hide that it was him just on a different account.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it is what it is, and it was so yeah, it was so. Like I said, we got, I mean, we got the great mods here, and I mean, it's just a good time. Like, I mean, you go on and like what like 2 Christmases ago, Bravey had just started band, and they were having issues with the band director, and they got a new director and a different director, and then he didn't get to do a Christmas concert. And he's like, "Daddy, I really want to do like a Christmas concert." I said, "Well, just come do it on stream. It's our stream. You do what you want to." And so basically, like that's what we did. I think we put some stuff in the bin, but basically, like he come on that night. We called it the RegisterRetro Brady Christmas saxophone concert, and he just played Christmas music all night because like it's our stream and we'll do what we want on it. Um, but it's and there's people that come in and ask him how when he played baseball, like how his baseball game went, and he's got the Daily Bugle Lego set over there, and he'll show off. Now once again, he bought the Daily Bugle Lego set with his
own money.
His own money.
Danico said more Bravey concerts. I like it.
Yeah. So, but it's a good time. I mean, it's a good time, and we can do, if we want to do a saxophone concert that night, then we'll do. We were supposed to have a RegisterRetro Christmas Eve saxophone concert last month in front of the Christmas tree living room, but he forgot his saxophone whenever we took winter break at school. So that didn't work out really good. I was like, "Well, how are you supposed to play without a?" Yeah. So, but yeah, like I said, I mean, not trying to pile up on them or not. I mean, it really has like in the past month or two, I feel a lot better about whatnot because I think at one time they had too many sellers and not enough buyers. But I do see a lot of commercials and stuff on TV now for whatnot. So I think the buyers are finally starting to hopefully outweigh kind of outweigh the sellers, which is good. And like I said, I mean, I'm really happy that for the most part, it looks like that Ben shows, there's still a place for us that do Ben shows.
Welcome in.
Absolutely. So we did get a question from Steven. He was asking any advice for somebody just starting out or wanting to stream on whatnot.
You go first.
Oh, okay.
Nothing crazy.
So before you go, I would at least try to have 50 items because in the bin, like everything needs to be listed in your bin because our thing is always if it's not in the bin, it's not gonna
sell.
Because basically, like it's great if you have hundreds of dollars worth of games, but if nobody knows what they are, then it's very hard to get on there and how they aren't selling anything.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's this one dude on here, and he comes on and he's got games everywhere. And I said, "Dude, please put that stuff in the bin." Like, and he's like, "Well, it would take a long time." And I was like, "But you could put it in instead of running, just take 2 shows and not run 2 shows where you stand there the whole time and pan back and forth, and take that time and put it in the bin. And everything's in there, and then it can sell when you're offline." But my advice would be, it is a grind. And when you start, like I said, we started with 3 followers back at myself, my wife, and my best friend in 2023. And now we've got, a little over 10,000. But when you start, and there's not very many people coming in, just like, don't stop, just keep grinding. But now, I mean, I see a lot of people that do first shows that have a good bit of people in there. So I mean, the app has grown a lot since I mean, I remember we started in 23, like we had us in there, and we just kind of hung out for a while, and then finally people. I remember, I'll tell the story. Back in November of 23, we'd been on for about a month. I found this guy locally, well, a couple hours away from me, and he had stacks of NES games. So other story. So we set up ready. I like telling stories. I'm old. So we get up one day and we're like, we wanted to go to this flea market outside Atlanta. So like, you know what? Let's do it. So we get in the car. We drive 3 hours outside of Atlanta. We go to this flea market, and there was nothing there. I mean,
It's tough.
it was tough.
They had some chickens.
Okay. The only thing that was there was like this mom and pop video game store that everything was overpriced, and it was 100% fake stuff. Like all the Pokemon games were fake. And I was like, this is not working out. So, and we were having a hard time finding inventory. So we get in the car, and Rusty's driving home, and I was like, man, we're dead in the water. Like we're done for even starts. So we get about 2 hours away from home. I'm just marketplace, and let's find something. Anyway, I see this guy that's got these stacks of NES games. There's probably 150 of them. And I was like, oh, this is not real. Like this, I'm fixing to get scammed. It was right before it was Halloween, I think, right? No, it was Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving. So right before Thanksgiving. So anyway, I come home and I messaged the guy, and I was like, hey, basically, like, are you real, sir? And we talked back for. I said, you know what? I said, just call me. I'm just gonna send you my phone number. Just call me. He was real. Um, and he was going for the complete NES set. And so basically what he would do is he would buy stuff in big bulk. He would take out what he wanted and then just get rid of the rest. So we come to an agreement that I was going to buy all of them for $1,400. Now, keep in mind that we've only really been doing this for like maybe 2 months. Only been on Whatnot for maybe a month. And I can remember I price sorted all of them and said, okay, we can make some money off of them. We're going to clean the test all up, clean tested.
And working.
And so we'll go up there and we'll get them. So I remember driving in my truck like hour and a half away. And I'm thinking like, Wes Register, what are you doing? You're going up here with $1,400 to spend on some video games. You're not going to sell anything. You're going to ruin your family. Your wife's going to divorce you because she's mean. But anyway, so we get there and I pull up. And he's got them, opens them up, and they're there. And I was like, this is real. Go figure. So I give him the money. I come home, and we come home that night, and we cleaned every one of them, tested every one of them. I mean, it was a couple hundred of them, I think, somewhere around there.
We opened every single one of them, and we had them laid out on the floor. And we went through and like we cleaned up every single one of the contacts, tested them.
Everything. And we opened them, everything. And we got them, and we got those two. You can't really see them. There's these two big crates. And what we did is we put them up on the desk. Of course, all that stuff wasn't back here then. It was just a desk. We put them all up on the desk, and we didn't have them in the bin. We learned our lesson. And I had a note pad on my Mac that had every game that we had. No, that's a lie. We put them in notes. Show notes, yeah. So you could come in the stream, and if you click show notes, it showed you all the NES games that were there. So we started the stream. We're hanging out. Nobody showed up.
Yes, cool.
And I'm thinking, man, this is bad. And we keep going. Nobody shows up. And I was like, all right, well, we got some NES. I want y'all come on in here. So I get up and I walk in the living room, and I looked at Rusty and I said, I'm so sorry I ruined our family. I apologize for ruining our family, honey. So we come back in, and finally one person's like, hey, can I see that Kirby's Adventure? Well, sure, baby showed it to him. I'll take that. And then another person. You know how you just got to break that ice and get that first buy of the night on Whatnot. And then finally, everybody started. And that was an amazing night for us. You know, we made money that night, and over the last 2 years, it's a 6-figure number of what I spent with that guy of games, getting games from him. It's just, it's just relationships that you build with people, and you learn that, these people have games and that person has games. And, we've done a few Facebook ads where, we kind of like locally target different places. Hey, if you have games, let us know. We went to the bank Wednesday. I went to the bank to deposit some checks. I go up to the teller and she's like, "Hey, I got some Xbox games if you want to buy them." And I was like, "Okay." And so we went to the bank to deposit some checks and left with Xbox games. So it's all about getting. What are you doing?
It was these.
So Xbox One, but still, there's some decent titles in
There's Deadpool in there.
there.
And I saw Deadpool and kind of freaked out.
Yeah. So Brady was in the truck because I said, "I'm just going to run in and deposit these checks real quick." So I went outside and I was like, he's like, "Okay." So we come in and I was like, "There's some Xbox games. Let's look through them." And so we looked through them and got a good deal. We left, and here we are. So, but it's all about connections and build those relationships with sellers, and a lot of collectors. If collectors will buy in bulk to get the. I think he's got, 5 games left to have the complete NES set. And so, and of course, like I said, you never, like I had this one lady call me last year, and she's like, "Hey, I got some games in the attic. You buy games, right?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." So I go there to her house, and I look and I see a GameCube sitting there, and I'm like, "All right, like it's on," because I know there's GameCube games around here somewhere. And she put out a box of all Wii games, and I was like, "Oh," but we bought them. There was some consoles there. We made some money. We're not trying to make $1 million, but we do like to make enough to buy more inventory and buy some cool stuff for us.
But let me tell y'all a story about what we like to call here Retro the summer lot.
Yes.
This is probably the craziest amount of games I've seen in one spot. So we get a call from this guy. He's like 5 minutes away from where we're at. And we go there one day, and he opens up because like he buys like storage units and stuff. But he had somebody where I believe they were hoarders, and somebody bought out their land, and like basically in the end, the truck couldn't pull the mobile home away because there was so much stuff in the mobile home.
So they got this guy to come clean the mobile home out. That's what it was.
And basically, he got in hundreds of games. We open up the door. And I mean, like, there were SNES games. I mean, your GameCube. Like, there were Pokemon stuff everywhere. Like, I looked in there, and the first 2 games I saw were Castlevania Dracula X, and I saw Pokemon Soul Silver and the cardboard box with a Pokewalker. And I was like, oh dear God. And I start looking, and it's some of the craziest stuff I've ever seen in person. But unfortunately, you get people that get all these games, they don't know what they're doing. And they start looking, and they're like, it's worth $85 trillion.
Why are you screaming at me?
So basically, like, we had to wait them out for about a month and a half before we finally got the right price on them. But there's still stuff out in the garage of just consoles and random Atari games. Like, it's crazy.
Well, here's the issue. So it happened a little different than what he said. So the guy had the games, and he opens the door he had a shed in the backyard, and there was games from one end of the wall to the next. So we walk in, and of course, the first game Bravey goes to is Gale of Darkness. Oh, well, of course, the first thing the guy said, "Well, yeah, man, that's a $200 game right there." So of course, now we're off to the races. Well, that's $200. That's it. I think this stuff's probably worth about $10,000. And I was like, I don't know what website you're looking at, but at the end of the day, it's just one of them things that he wasn't a seller. He said, he's seen Pokemon, which rightfully so. Looked it up, and then of course he saw the Soul Silver with the Pokewalker and stuff. And so I said, are you going to test them all? Well, I think I'm going to set up consoles. I'm going to test all of them myself. Have you ever sold on eBay? No, not really. And I was like, well, good luck with it. I told him, I said, that's no problem. I can't pay what you want me to pay. But if later on, if you want to sell them, let me know. And so finally, about, we have to wait folks out. About a month and a half later, he called and said, "Hey, my wife wants me to get rid of this stuff. Come see." Well, then I took my wife. And she's the one that cleans everything, because I needed her to tell me how much is it. Because this stuff sat there in this trailer for probably 20 years. So there was a bunch we had to throw away because it was mildewed and molded, and we know we wouldn't be able to sell it. And I didn't know if any of that stuff worked. And like some of it was filthy. And so we eventually got it for a good price. We loaded it all up and brought it home that day and cleaned. But there's still stuff out in the garage that we just haven't got around to selling. But that's one of them things that is for us, probably like a once in every 5 or 6 year find. We just happened to find it like 2 years after we started doing this, in our opinion. Yeah. But I told
Yeah, and
him,
it's interesting how stuff seems to find you.
yeah. Yeah, it is. It's one of the things that my wife calls Eufaula, which is where we live. So we're about, those that don't know, most people know where Panama City Beach, Florida is. So we're about 2.5 hours north of Panama City Beach, Florida is where we are. Now, the panhandle of Florida is a video game wonderland. Like there are freaking video games everywhere in the panhandle of Florida. It's just getting down there to get them. But just my wife calls Eufaula the video game inventory desert because there's just not really. But now that was just the once in a career find that just happened to be there. But there was Dracula X was in there. Harvest Moon. I knew Earthbound was going to be there, but with no Earthbound. Harvest Moon was in there. There's a couple more like super heavy Super Nintendo games that were in there.
There was what was funny though was that there were these like 4 totes that were under the wooden table that had them, and he opens up one full of consoles, opens up the second one full of consoles, and I'm like, I need to know how much money this person had that they put in their budget towards video games.
Yeah, for real. It was a lot of stuff. I mean, some of that stuff was broken. Like, there was a play like we still got a Wii U out there. We got a bunch of we got 3 Super Nintendo stacked up that are just disgusting because they were just sat there and mold and mildew for years. So we have to resell those. We had a Game Gear that I was a Nintendo snob growing up. So like my first Sega was a Sega Saturn when I was like, what, 19? And so like I never had a Game Gear, but I wanted a Game Gear, but that Game Gear was just so far gone. So I sold it. We actually sold it, I think, for like $50 on whatnot like a month or so ago because I bought a reshelled Game Gear from a buddy of mine. But yeah, I mean, it was a great find. And I mean, it's a lot that folks don't understand from a seller point you do, but they don't understand how much work it is to clean this stuff and test this stuff. And you got to hook that up and this up. And, if you open the board and it doesn't work, and especially disc-based games, man, some discs look like they took the game, just rubbed it against the road outside for some reason,
I'll tell y'all something. I'm just saying, one of my worst nightmares is to walk into a room and see 20 consoles there and be like, what cord goes to what? I can't figure it out. Like
that's true.
I just don't know. Like I can't figure out. I don't know if I don't have the coordination or what, but I can't figure out what cord goes to what.
That's true. I can attest. Yeah. And my wife, and for me being in the IT business, like I just take all the cables, just throw them in one big pile in the living room, and that freaks her out. And cause I know what cable I need to goes to what. But explaining to him what S video was or what component video was, composite video. But you've been pretty good learning like what goes to what.
Then like power cables, I can get those pretty well, but like video cables and like adapters, and it's not great.
Yeah, that's because you're dealing with too much disc-based stuff. All the old Nintendos are RCA or Super Nintendo, GameCube, 64, all the same AV cable. It's pretty easy. So,
yeah.
You'll get better at it. You'll get better at it. It comes around. But I also would lose my mind if I saw a pile of cables in one spot. So, got to at least rubber band them.
Well, so
cool.
Of course, I don't have near the stuff on my TV stand I did years ago because I've got like all my Fantastics and stuff. But we had a bunch of like consoles and things on the TV stand, and once a year we'd always pull it out and clean all of it and redo it. I would just take all the cables, just throw it in a pile, and then as we my wife's shaking her head right now, and as I would put stuff back on the entertainment, I just grab what I needed and hook it up. But she would just get like nervous anxiety about it. It was tough for her. She was going through it.
Yeah, when I set up my consoles in here, I was like, man, I'm going to put every one of them, at tie wraps and, cable ties and just make sure everything's really tight.
Yeah.
And then you go like 6 months and you're like, well, that console doesn't work anymore. So I'm going to swap this one out and you end up with cables kind of everywhere. But, well, cool, man. Look, we're kind of running low on time. I know you guys still have to do a show. I wanted to definitely throw out some shout outs tonight. We did have 3 sponsors for tonight's episode. Big thank you to Matt's Retro World, Spider 8X, as well as Sweet Oreo for sponsoring the show tonight. Those guys do get a mystery item sent to them as well for that, and then some props on the YouTube as well. So thank y'all so much for that. Registers, thank y'all so much for joining as well tonight. I know y'all are going to do a show. We're going to raid into you here in just a little bit. Bravey, good luck on the Wii U collection, and congrats on the Funtastics. I think you finally finished that, right?
I did, yeah. So my wife got me the Jungle Green like 3 or 4 years. I don't think you paid very much for it at all, did you?
It's like $40.
She paid $40 for it 3 or 4 years ago because like the Jungle Green was my favorite. I never had one, and I got that one. And then we went to Retro Rigs convention 2 years ago. And coming home, we marketplace, and she found me the watermelon. Then after that, I was like, well, now I got to get the whole set.
The watermelon was not $40.
The watermelon was not $40, that's for sure. But then the last one I needed was the Fire Orange, and I got that one at Southeast Game Exchange last year, and then also got the gold one. So now I'm thinking about maybe doing like the Japanese ones, but I got to find room for it. It's very easy to like want to be a collector and then run out of room very quickly. That's for sure.
Absolutely, I'm in the same boat. Well, cool guys. Well, look, thank y'all so much for joining tonight. Everybody in the chat, thank y'all for watching as well. We'll let you guys jump on over to your stream, and then we'll raid over to you. You guys check out Register Retro. Late nights usually on Whatnot, but sometimes every now and then on during the day, and then at all your local cons. Check out the list. Hopefully they're there. And you guys go buy a bunch of stuff from them tonight. Thank y'all so much for joining. And we'll raid over to you in just a minute.
All right, I appreciate you having us on. Thank you so much.